गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। चिन्मयं व्यापि यत्सर्वं त्रैलोक्यं सचराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। भवानी शङ्करौ वन्दे श्रद्धा विश्वासरूपिणौ याभ्यां विना न पश्यन्ति सिद्धा स्वान्तस्थमीश्वरम्। सदाकारं चिदानन्दं सदाकारं चिदानन्दं वागगम्यं परं धामं वागगम्यं परं धामं सदाकारं चिदानन्दं तारकब्रह्मं राम रामं तारकब्रह्मं राम रामं पद्मनयनं जानकीप्राणं पद्मनयनं जानकीप्राणं कोदण्डरामं श्रीराम रामं कोदण्डरामं श्रीराम रामं सदाकारं चिदानन्दं वागगम्यं परं धामं तारकब्रह्मं राम रामं పద్మనయనం జానకి ప్రాణం కోదండరామం శ్రీరామ రామం సాకేతవాసం వనసంచారం సాకేతవాసం వనసంచారం వేదసారం శ్రీరఘురామం వేదసారం శ్రీరఘురామం వ్రతపరిపాలనం శాపవిమోచనం వ్రతపరిపాలనం శాపవిమోచనం మాయామానుషం కరుణాహృదయం మాయామానుషం కరుణాహృదయం సాకేతవాసం వనసంచారం వేదసారం శ్రీరఘురామం ఇందిరానాథం శరణం శరణం ఇందిరానాథం శరణం 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 ఇందిరానాథం ఇందిరానాథం శరణం శరణం తారక బ్రహ్మం రామం రామం వాగగమ్యం పరంధామం సదాకారం చిదానందం సదాకారం చిదానందం కోదండరామం శ్రీరామ రామం శ్రీరామ రామం శ్రీరఘురామం శ్రీరామ రామం చిదంశం విభుం నిర్మలం నిర్వికల్పం నిర్మలం నిర్వికల్పం నిరీహం నిరాకారం ఓంకారవాచ్యం ఓంకారవాచ్యం గుణాతీతమవ్యక్తం ఏకం తురీయం ఏకం తురీయం పరం బ్రహ్మయం వేద తస్మై నమస్తే పరం బ్రహ్మయం వేద తస్మై నమస్తే తస్మై నమస్తే విశుద్ధం శివం శాంతమాద్యంతశూన్యం జగజ్జీవనం జ్యోతిరానందరూపం అదిగ్దేశకాల వ్యవచ్ఛేదనీయం వ్యవచ్ఛేదనీయం త్రయీవక్తియం వేద తస్మై నమస్తే తస్మై నమస్తే లపన్నచ్యుతానంత గోవింద విష్ణు మురారే హరే నాథ నారాయణేతి నారాయణేతి యథానుస్మరిష్యామి భక్త్యా భవంతం భక్త్యా భవంతం తథా మే దయాశీల దేవ ప్రసీద తథా మే దయాశీల దేవ ప్రసీద దేవ ప్రసీద. హరి ఓం. Inner sense of poverty, hollowness, lack of inner worth cannot be compensated by outer richness. Outside we might gain lot of riches, but those riches will never compensate the inner sense of lack of worth, the inner hollowness, the inner poverty. That gets removed and that truly gets compensated only through the contact of inner self. When we come to experience the inner self by contacting the inner self, by removing all the obstacles, by surrendering all the blocks, by letting go of all the obstructions, then because of the contact of the inner self, we come to experience the inner completeness, the inner greatness. Greatness meaning the ability and courage to handle the life situations successfully and overcome them. Overcome any kind of objections and obstructions that are there. So we come to experience through the contact of the inner self, the inner greatness, the inner completeness, the inner contentment, the inner happiness. When we come to experience the inner greatness, the inner completeness, the inner contentment and the inner happiness, we come to transcend the world. Then the world will not be a place of worry and tension and anxiety and trouble for us. Then the world will become a playground for us. Then we are not at the receiving end. Then we are not at the mercy of the world. Then it becomes easy for us to handle the world and the worldly things. Then the world will become a place for us to enjoy. Right now the world is a very difficult place for us to treat through. It's a very tough place for us to handle. Because we have not contacted the inner self. And we are thinking that by gaining outer riches, outer glory, we will be able to really handle the world very well. The people who are great in the world, very rich in the world, are not truly capable of handling the world as it should be handled. And whatever ways and means they try to adopt to handle the world, they make them get more entangled, more tied down, more bound, more caught up in the network. Because the way to handle the world is not by looking outside, is by contacting that which is inside. Because that which is inside alone is outside. Only when we contact the inner self, then alone we can come to experience that inner true sense of completeness. Till then we will remain incomplete. How much ever we may accumulate the things of the outer world, and the world may praise us and give awards to us, rewards to us, glorify us, laud us, but still inside we will be incomplete as long as we have not gained that inner sense of completeness by contacting the inner self. One of the most important ways to contact the inner self is the conscious way of handling the feelings. That is what we had been trying to understand for the past 1 week. The conscious way of handling the feelings, especially the negative feelings. And the end result of the conscious ways of handling the feelings is invulnerability, imperturbability. We will be no more vulnerable. We will be no more perturbed by the world and the worldly things. We will go through the life situations with balance and with grace. This is what is lacking right now. Balance is lacking. The grace is lacking. So we will be able to go through the life situations with balance and grace only when we consciously handle our feelings. And the best way to handle these negative feelings is to surrender them. Allow them to come up, allow them to manifest and run through their course, and we consciously observe them. Because we have already seen that observation depersonalizes the energy that is there behind the feelings, because of which the belief systems are there, because of which the perceptions are conditioned, because of which the events and situations are getting created, and because of which we are reacting and then finally creating more negative feelings, as we had already seen it yesterday. The world will see us as we see ourselves. How do we see ourselves? Do we see ourselves as a person who is bound, tied down, dependent on the world, craving for the things of the world, incomplete person inside? The world also will see like that. The masters have clearly said the world will see us as we see ourselves. If we see ourselves in the light of true knowledge, if we see ourselves as a complete person, and that completeness will manifest outside in this world, then the world will recognize that. And we are not dependent upon the world, because we know now the secret of living the life, going through the life situations in balance and grace. So we don't bother about how the world looks at us, but then the world looks at us in the right way. Whether it looks at us or not in the proper way, we are not bothered, but then only it will be capable to look at us, because we know how to look at ourselves in the proper way. So the most important thing for us in the life is to contact the inner self, because till then we can never find the inner sense of completeness, contentment, happiness, greatness, transcendence. We can never find. That is the reason why the great masters have always advised it to us that we should get engaged very sincerely and seriously in the spiritual work, apart from our worldly work. According to them, what is the serious spiritual work? Serious spiritual work is a continuous willingness to surrender. Sharanagati, the path of surrender. Serious spiritual work is the continuous willingness to let things go. Surrender. As they arise, so we surrender. It is the willingness to surrender, the wanting to control everything as it arises. When things arise in us, when feelings arise in us, we want to control them. But here in the path of surrender, it is the willingness to surrender, the wanting to control everything as it arises. It is the willingness to surrender, the wanting to change it. It is the willingness to surrender, the wanting to have it our way. The attempt to have it our way, the attempt to change it, the attempt to control it will never allow us to get rid of these negative feelings. They will bind us more. The very attempt to control, the very attempt to have it our way, the very attempt to change these feelings leads us into bondage and entanglement. That is why to surrender and to let go of everything as it arises is one of the most important spiritual practices. Whatever practice we may do or not in the spiritual path, but this is the best thing that we can do. Whatever arises, as it arises, and then slowly it starts reaching the peak. Whatever arises, it slowly starts reaching the peak, and then it falls, starts falling down. So as it arises and reaches the peak, just leave it, just let it go, just surrender it. The feeling arises and reaches the peak, surrender it. The desire arises and reaches the peak, surrender it. Let it go to the peak and then surrender it. And this should become continuous and, if possible, non-stop. Non-stop we are able to do certain things. Non-stop chattering of the mind goes on. So we can attempt to do. So whatever is coming up will go down. But what happens with us is, when it comes up, we get identified with it, we hold it, we think that it is very important, we get bound by it, we get involved in it. That is what is happening to us. When it rises, allow it to, let go, surrender, it falls down. But when it rises, as it rises, we hold on to it. We are caught by it and we catch it. So, a great master says, everything goes in the form of a cycle. The cycle will cycle itself out if you don't pedal it unnecessarily in between. The cycle will cycle itself out. Whatever is cycling up, it eventually disappears. We can make it disappear by choosing to be one with it and refusing to want it, change it, own it. As it arises, so we need to surrender it. When everything like that is surrendered, all that which stands in the way of our realization will get removed, and the inner presence, the inner divine presence is revealed, unveiled, and we come to experience it as our own true nature. Every single moment is dissolving. As it arises, it starts dissolving. Like the waves in the ocean. The wave rises and then it starts falling down. Similarly, each single moment, every single moment is dissolving as it arises. So we need to let go of anticipating the next moment and trying to control it. One of the engagements which we get into is anticipating the next moment and trying to control it now only. Planning to control it. That we have to surrender. Next thing, we have to surrender trying to hang on to the moment that has just passed. A moment has just passed and we try to hang on to it. That we have to surrender. We try to hold on to the moment, that which has just passed, and we try to cling to that moment which has just occurred. Clinging to that moment which has just occurred, surrender it. Holding on to the moment which has just passed, surrender it. Trying to control the future moment by anticipating it, surrender it. Very intense spiritual work this is. From outside it looks as if this fellow is not working, most laziest fellow. But inside this person is so subtly working. Every moment as it rises, he allows it to dissolve. Doesn't meddle with it, doesn't do anything except allowing it to go, except surrendering it to God, surrendering it to the divinity. The future moment is not anticipating and trying to control. So the future will not be bothering this individual. The past moment which has just occurred, just happened, is not trying to cling on to it or hang on to it, surrendering it. This is the greatest surrender we can do. Then what is there? In this moment, what is there? Then we live in a moment where there is no time, no event. A moment where there is no time, no event. We live in that space. We live in that space which is timeless, which is eventless, by surrendering in this manner. Intense surrender takes us into the space of timelessness, eventlessness. No events are happening, so there is nothing to think about. If an event happens, then we have to think about it. If an event is expected to happen, then we think about it. If the event has already happened, then we think about it. We get connected with it. And this is a space where there is no event. A space, no events are happening. There is no time. Timeless space where there are no events that are happening. And then we come to experience the thrill of oneness with that bliss beatitude. And that space is the infinite space, never-ending space, and that is beyond description. And that which is never-ending space and which is beyond description and which is the thrill of the blissful beatitude is our home. That is our home. Then we have reached the home, we have arrived at the home. Wherever we go, even in this world, we want to get back to the home. We want to go back. The main reason is we are not comfortable anywhere else. Unless and until we go back home, we are not comfortable. And this will take us beyond all fears. Even when there is fear of aging, we can surrender that fear also. When we surrender ourselves to this very process of aging and simply understand it as a part of human living, a condition, a human condition of living, and become more loving. Accept it as a part of human condition of living and become more loving. Then, because we become more loving, more kind, more surrendering. We have surrendered unto the truths of living, surrendered to the divinity which has made these things as a part of human living, human conditions of living, and we become more loving, then more people will get motivated and inspired to come forward to help us because they enjoy helping us. We become more loving, they come forward to help us more and more. And it is loving from our side to allow people to help us. It is the gift to people to allow to help us. This is graceful aging, where we are more loving and more surrendering. So there is no more fear. So when we are concerned with the welfare of the humanity by surrendering all our negativities, then the God will start taking care of us. Then we will be taken care. When we surrender in this manner, when we continuously surrender in this manner, the self-healing power which is there within us, that gets activated. So surrender, continuous surrender activates the inner self-healing power which heals us, which really heals us, which truly heals us. The main obstacle inside is the ego. The ego means the totality of our negative programs. It is the totality of all of our negative programs. So that has to be surrendered. So the process of surrendering, the mechanism of surrendering, the methodology of surrendering, the path of surrendering, all the negative programs takes us into that level of excellence where we come to revel in everything that we do and every moment that we live. Whatever we do, wherever we are, we will be only reveling. So in the path of surrender, one of the important advice that is given is, when there are train of thoughts coming, when they are happening inside us, we need to locate, identify, recognize that feeling which is behind this train of thoughts, and then surrender that feeling to divinity. This train of thoughts instantly stops. We need not try to handle the thoughts, struggle with the thoughts. Locate the feeling, recognize the feeling, identify that feeling which is responsible for this train of thoughts, and surrender that feeling unto God, unto divinity. Then this train of thoughts, instantly it will stop. And in order to do this, we have to go deep into ourselves and acknowledge and recognize that which is there inside. Whatever feelings that are there, we have to recognize them, consciously observe them, and willfully, devotedly surrender them. As we have seen yesterday, without suppressing them, without repressing them, without venting them, without escaping from them, which are not profitable ways of handling these feelings. So we need to surrender them. We need to allow them to go. Then we become true masters of the life situations. One who is a master of oneself is a master of the life situations. And the way to become the master is by surrendering to the master, to the divine master. There was an interview, and the interviewing officer asked the candidate because that interview was connected with automobile engineering. So, the interviewing officer asked the candidate, how does a two-wheeler, a scooter run? How does a two-wheeler or a scooter run? Maybe because if it is automobile engineering, he expected so much of scientific thing and all that. How does a scooter run? But this candidate said, it runs. Then that interviewing officer understood what is the level of knowledge. Maybe the certificate might have been fabricated. Maybe this fellow did not read anything about that. So he got very wild because he was going on. Nonsense. Stop it. Then he said, what can you do with such people? Even that also he takes it as an instruction or a question how it stops. And that fellow is applying there. And if he gets into that engineering department, now we can understand what type of vehicles will come out. So we need to have the knowledge how it runs. Similarly, how to run the feelings. Actually, we need not run them. They are running themselves. It is a programming that is going on. They are running. We need not run along with them, or we need not try to stop them, or we need not try to compete with them. Just observe, let them go. Don't do anything to them. That's what is the teaching. Don't do anything with them, and don't do anything about them. Just allow them to go. Surrender them to God. In another interview, there was a lady candidate. So the interviewing officer asked, what is the name of your car? Again, something connected with automobiles only. What is the name of your car? I don't remember, but it starts with a T. It starts with a T. Then the interviewing officer said, wow, my car starts with petrol. Your car starts with a T? Miraculous! Strange! Then the candidate understood now. What is the level of this interviewing office? Car starts with a chai. So maybe afterwards we have to take cars to the Irani hotels and then put more chai and then run it. Probably somebody will invent, who knows. When we don't have the proper methodology of handling the situation and understanding things as they are, then we lead ourselves and others into confusion. We need to understand the situation properly. One man went to a clinic, and there he saw another man sitting outside the clinic and crying and crying and crying. Then he asked, why are you crying? Then he said, I came here for blood test and they cut my finger. So I am crying. And he showed the finger. And this man said, my God, I came for brain test. And he ran away. He thought they will cut his brain also. So that is how he perceived that moment, whatever was happening, that is how he perceived. When a customer came back to the shop where he purchased the radio. Nowadays nobody purchases the radio, but he purchased the radio and he came back to the shop to return it. The shopkeeper asked, why are you returning it? You said it is made in Japan. And when I switched it on, it says All India Radio. You have cheated me. Take it back. We can't understand that a radio which is made in Japan can say it is All India Radio. The broadcasting station is different from the one who created it. So, understanding the world is important, but understanding the ways in which we have to handle the feelings is most important. One person was asking his friend, the fast approaching girlfriend's birthday is very important to me. I have to gift something, please suggest. And that man said, give her a diamond studded gold ring. A diamond studded gold ring. And this man said, tell something big. Then he said, okay, give her a pearl and ruby chain and necklace. Tell something big. Then he said, gift her the Seat tire. It all depends upon how we look at things, how we understand. There was this person who came back to the library from where he borrowed the book. He threw the book onto the table in front of the librarian and said, what book is this? There are characters and characters and characters. Too many, countless characters, too many characters, but no story. So many characters, no story. And then the librarian looked at the person and the book and said, oh, you are the one who took away the telephone directory. So you took the telephone directory thinking it is a story book. Huh? All characters only, no story. He is complaining. How can he complain? Because he took it. And thereafterwards the complaining doesn't work at all. So, when we are identifying with the feelings and trying to change them, trying to alter them, trying to do something with them, then we will get caught up in it. And after that, when we complain, nothing will happen. More feelings will arise. So that is why the best thing to do with them is to allow them to go, allow them to vanish, allow them to disappear. And if we are not able to allow them to disappear, then surrender them. If we are not able to keep quiet and then allow them to go, then tell God, oh God, I surrender unto you. Oh Vishnu Bhagavan, I surrender. Oh Sri Ramachandraji, I surrender. Oh Panduranga, Sri Krishna, I surrender. Oh Bhavani Amma, I surrender. That is what Adi Shankaracharya ji has taught us all these days. All different slokas of surrendering to all these manifestations of divinity. So we need to surrender. There was one person who went to a cloth shop and said, show me cloths. And then that salesman there asked, plain mein bataun? He said, are idhar bata, aeroplane mein kaun bola? Who want to see it in aeroplane? I am telling, here you show. Plane means not aeroplane. Shall I show it in plane or design? But he understands it in his own way. What can you do? Now coming back, the most important thing here is reaching higher states or levels of consciousness. And that is possible through surrender. When we surrender all these blocks that are there, obstructions and obstacles that are there, then we reach the higher levels of consciousness. Surrendering to God, according to Sharanagati, means surrendering one's willfulness. And surrendering one's willfulness means surrendering one's ego. That is the collector of all programs. All programs are collected by the ego. So because of the programs and because of the programming, we keep on judging, blaming, controlling, expecting, getting trouble, troubling others. getting pressurized, creating pressure upon others. All this goes on. So in order to get out of that, we need to know about the technique of surrender. Because the most important point, one of the most important points is the technique of surrender gives us the power of choice over our vasanas, tendencies, handling the vasanas, to have the power of choice over the vasanas, whether we have to identify with them or whether we have to just let them go. Shubha vasana, Ashubha vasana. So the power of choice over vasanas arises in us when we practice the technique of surrender. That means what? It opens up the freedom, real freedom, and the capacity for free choice. Here lies the capacity for free choice. When we surrender, know the technique of surrender, we have this choice in relation to the vasanas. That is the freedom. It is not that the vasanas control us, compel us, force us, make us identify with them, which is happening now. Because we are at the terms dictated by the vasanas, but later on we have freedom. That choice, that free choice. And for gaining this, we need to be consciously aware of the technique of surrender. Very consciously aware. And then slowly do it regularly. And then we come to master this technique of surrender. Unless we reach that level of mastering this technique of surrender, any day, any time, ego can throw us down and start controlling us. Because already we have seen a couple of days ago that ego will create tricks and bluffs to distract us from the path of surrender, because the path of surrender cuts the ego, cuts it asunder. So the ego will try to overrule and dominate us by creating more conflicts and doubts and suspicion. So we need to be regular and sincere in practicing this path of surrender. In the true surrendered state, we are independent of the world. We are no more dependent of the world. We no longer see that the world is a source of our satisfaction, because we have discovered the inner sense of satisfaction, inner sense of contentment. So we know now if we want satisfaction, we have to go inside and contact the inner self, and not go outside and contact the outer world, which is misleading and which is illusory. We need to go inside. We go inside and we contact. Then we go beyond all suffering, because we transcend all these limitations and bondages. One person asked the other, why do girls cry? Old time girls, why do they cry at the time of marriage? And the friend told him, because they have a peculiar tendency to choose their husbands who are like their fathers. And then he asked, why do mother-in-laws cry? Or why do mothers cry? When the girl is going, why mothers cry? Then he said, it is because the girl selected someone who is like her father, that the mother cries. Because mother knows what it is to live with the father. And the girl selected somebody like father. But father with the daughter is different, father with wife is different, no? Husband with wife is different. So mother is crying. And then he said, now I understand why the girl cries and why the mother cries. We can surpass all such crying if we are able to surrender the feelings. One man accidentally came across a genie. And then the genie told him, ask for a boon. I will give you whatever you want. But the condition is, your mother-in-law will get double of what you ask. So this man thought and said, make me a multi-millionaire and then beat me half to death. Make me multi-millionaire, mother-in-law will get double, and beat me half to death. She will be full. Negative feelings will make people choose like that, where there is suffering for oneself and suffering for others also. One man got a text message because he was on tour because of work. He got a text message about the death of mother-in-law. Death of mother-in-law. And then there was a query also there in that text message. What should we do now? Should we burn or bury? And then he replies in his text message, don't take chances. Burn the body and bury the ashes. Because it all depends upon what one has undergone in life. That comes out. So, undergoing situations in life, maybe the superficial causes are external, but the actual thing is our identification with the feelings. One person was talking to his friend. For my 5th wedding anniversary, I took my wife to Hawaii. He told, I took my wife to Hawaii Islands, Hawaii. And then the friend asked, now it is your 25th wedding anniversary. What you will do? He said, I will go to Hawaii and get my wife back. So for 5th wedding anniversary, he took his wife and left her there. Now it is 25th wedding anniversary, he will go and get her back. Mr. Bill asked Mr. Jill, life is so dull, especially married life is very boring. I am married for more than 10 years. It's boring. Life is dull. Any suggestion? Bill asked Jill. So Jill gave a thrilling suggestion. Jill said, this is a new age, man. Try an affair. Try one affair. Extramarital affair. Try one affair. Then life will become thrilling, suspense filled. Moment to moment. It will be surprise. Try this. Jill told Bill. Bill said, what if my wife comes to know? He said, hey, this is new age, man. Tell her it is for the good of our relationship so that we can come more together. I am trying to have an affair. Tell her it is for good of our relationship. We will come more together if we have an affair. Tell her. So he went to the wife. Bill went to his wife and told, I am planning to have an affair so that we can come more closer and together. The wife said, "Nonsense! It will never work out. I have tried a dozen times." Then this fellow collapsed. The mechanism of surrender, the important thing is, the first thing is, we have to have that true inner urge to free ourselves from the feelings, negative feelings. To get that urge is a great thing that can happen to an individual in life. I want to free myself from these negative feelings. Otherwise, normally we are identifying with them, we have accepted them, we are living with them, we are dictated by them. But to get an inner urge, a want to be free of inner feelings is the first and foremost thing. And the second thing is to begin practicing surrender. To practice surrendering. To start the day early in the morning and to plan well that day, that this is the day I will try to surrender everything as it arises. I will allow them to go. I will not identify with these feelings. Keep on surrendering unto God. All negative thoughts, all negative feelings, I will surrender. We have to start our day in the path of surrender with this beautiful sankalpa in our mind. The whole day will go like this. I will keep on surrendering. The next thing is, at the end of the day, take a look at the day's events. Were there any moments where we could not surrender, we got identified, we could not be really conscious, we could not observe, we could not practice, we got involved? Take note of those moments at the end of the day and tell ourselves that I will not repeat this. I will try not to repeat this. I will be more conscious, more aware, not to get into these things. And also, next thing is, keep a note of all those successful surrenders where something arose in us, immediately we got this idea, remembered the technique of surrender, and we surrendered it and we got the relief, and that no more bothered us, and that just vanished, and then we could smile at that given situation because we could surrender. We could take life easily, we could feel more happiness, we could feel more comfort, we could surrender it. Take a note of those successful surrenders so that we will become more convinced, more confident. Yes, I can surrender. Another thing is, let us not think that this is a sadhana which we are forcing upon ourselves. Anything that we force upon ourselves, it will not give true results because we start resenting it silently inside. So let us tell ourselves that this is out of our freedom, out of our choice, we have selected this path. We have freedom even now not to follow this. Then resistances will drop away. No more resistances will be there. Then again start the next day with the sankalpa that I will let go of all negativity today. And like that each day, if we can go on and on and on, then we will get out of the clutches of all these negative feelings. We should also let go of the fantasy that by we doing something, by we expressing our feelings, we can bring about a change in the other person. Forget about that. That may not happen, and just let go of it. As long as we think that by our feelings we will bring about a change in the other person, we will hold on to these feelings of negativity. Forget about that. Just let go of these feelings. Just leave them to God. Surrender unto God. It is said, according to the Purana, especially talking about the Mahatmya in Kashi, if the individual is not able to surrender to divinity, but by the stroke of punya or fortune or whatever it is, the last moments of leaving the body is in Kashi or Varanasi, then Parameshwara himself in that last moments will in a subtle form come near to the ear and tell about the Ramanama in the ear of the person who is leaving the body. Meaning, because of our punya, great deeds that we have done, there is a value to them. In the last moments, some divine manifestation, some form of divinity will come to our rescue and then tell. That is what is said in this sloka, which we have daily chanted as one of the slokas of concluding prayer. Yada varnayat karna mulenta kale Shivo Rama Rameti Rameti Kasyam Rameti Kasyam Shivo Rama Rameti Rameti Kasyam Tadekam Param Taraka Brahma Rupam Taraka Brahma Rupam Bhajeham 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 Bhajeham. Adi Shankaracharya ji says here in the Rama Bhujanga Prayata Stotram, Yada Varnayat Karna Mulenta Kale, Yada Varnayat Karna Mulenta Kale. In the Antakala, in the last moments of our departure from the body, Parameshwara comes near to the ear and he will tell in the ear the Rama 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 Nama mantra. It is said in this sloka that I always and at all times worship Sri Rama alone. Bhajeham, 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 Bhajeham means I always and at all times worship Sri Rama alone. Who is this Sri Rama? Who is of the form of Taraka Brahma. He is the one and the only one without a second. Tad Ekam. Param. He is the supreme Brahman. He alone is. But the same Supreme Brahman which alone is came down as Sri Rama to bridge the connection between the mortal world and the immortal levels of consciousness. To take us from mortality to immortality. He came down to create this bridge, to create this connection, to create this link. Through this link, we get into that. Tadekam param taraka brahma rupam. Taraka brahma rupam. Sri Rama is Taraka brahma rupam. Taraka Brahmam means the one who makes those devotees who chant his name transcend all limitations and all bondages. If we worship Sri Ramachandra ji with devotion and chant his name, Taraka mantra, he will make us transcend all limitations and all bondages. We need not do anything afterward. All that we need to do is we keep on chanting his mantra. If we are unable to do that, but we have done lot of punya, and then Parameshwara alone will come because he is Layakaraka. Parameshwara will come because you have surrendered unto him. So he will come there at that time and he will chant Rama, 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 Rama. Then we are, oh Rama, Rama. Then we will be able to concentrate on that and then maybe we will also chant it. In the ears of those who are on the verge of death, Parameshwara chants Ramanama. To such a Rama, whose name is chanted by Paramashiva, in the last moments of the beings, I worship such a Ramachandra. So the most important thing here is, Parameshwara also chants Ramanama. That is the beauty of it. Then why can't we? Parameshwara chants means when the Layakaraka chants, at the time of Laya, this is the best way to transcend the fear of death, to go beyond the death. Namah Satchidananda Rupaya Tasmai Namo Deva Devaya Ramaya Tubhyam Namo Janaki Jiviteshaya Tubhyam Namah Pundarikayata Akshaya Tubhyam Akshaya Tubhyam. Salutations unto you, O Sri Rama. Thou art the form of Satchidananda. Namas Satchidananda Rupaya Tasmai. O Sri Rama, salutations unto you. You are of the form of Satchidananda. Thou art the form of Satchidananda. Namo Deva Devaya Ramaya Tubhyam. Thou art not only the supreme truth, but thou art the God of gods. Namo Deva Devaya Deva Devaya Ramaya Tubhyam. Thou art the God of gods, who can truly take us into that level which is beyond all limitations and bondages. Namo Janaki Jiviteshaya Tubhyam. Namo Janaki Jiviteshaya Tubhyam. For Janaki, who is Ayonija, the purest of the pure, because she manifested out of the earth, she went back into the earth. She did not come through the womb. And she did not go into the tomb. Meaning, earth is the grossest element. She came from the subtlest level, manifested, and then again went back. So, such a pure divine being, Janaki, for her, Namo Janaki Jiviteshaya Tubhyam. Thou art the hope and love of life of Janaki. Such a pure divine being. You are the love of life and hope. Hope and love of life. Her hope is you. Her life is you. Her love is you. Hope and love of life is you. For her. So if we also want to become pure, our hope should be Sri Rama. our love should be for Sri Rama. Our life should be connected with Sri Rama. Hope, love, life. We express our love. We want to live life. We have so many hopes. But if they are connected with the Sri Rama, all our hopes will be fulfilled. Definitely we will attain them. We live a life of love and enjoy that life, and also we will transcend all the limitations. Namah Pundarikaya Takshaya Tubhyam. He is Pundarikaya Takshaya, meaning his eyes are of the form of lotus petal. His eyes resemble lotus petals. Salutations unto you, Sri Rama, whose eyes are resembling the lotus petals, meaning it is a beautiful practice to us. Just as the lotus is untouched by the water where it is, similarly eyes are like lotus petals, means what we see, whatever we see, we are uninfluenced by that, we are untouched by that. We are not pulled by that, we are not attracted by that, we are not bound by that, we are not drowned by that. That is the eye. See, but remember that you are the seer and that is the seen. So seer can never be caught by the seen. So lotus-eyed petal means we see, but we don't get attached to whatever we see. That way we need to see the world. Seeing also means everything, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, that represents all indriyas. Whatever we experience through the indriyas, we will never be bound by that. That is what is the meaning of lotus petal means. Namah Pundarikaya Takshaya Tubhyam. So we are offering our salutations unto Sri Rama, so that we will also live life like that, untouched by what we come to experience at the sense level, at the mind level, at the feeling level. Sada Rama Rameti Namamrutam Te Sada Rama Mananda Nishyanda Kandam Pibantam Namantam Sudantam Hasantam Hanumantamantar Bhajetam Nitantam Bhajetam Nitantam. Sri Adi Shankaracharya ji says here, as a practice for all of us, I always mentally adore and worship Hanuman. Hanumantam antaha bhajetam nitantam. Hanumantamantar bhajetam nitantam. I always, nitantam, I always mentally adore and worship Hanuman. Why? Because Pibantam namantam sudantam hasantam. So because Hanuman, he drinks something. What? Sadarama mananda nishyanda kandam. Because Hanumanji always drinks the divine nectar, the ambrosia of Ramanama. He is always drinking the divine nectar of Ramanama, the amrita of Ramanama. Always. Sada Rama Rameti Namamrutam Te. So he is drinking that Nama Amrita. Always he is drinking that Amrutam, Nama Amrutam. Rama, 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 Rama. He is always drinking that Rama Nama Amrutam. And what is this Amrutam? Sada Rama Mananda Nishyanda Kandam. This Rama Nama Amrutam is like the root that bestows happiness to good people. Kandam, that bestows happiness to good people. It's like a root which bestows happiness to good people, and that which makes juice of bliss flow in the heart. Sada Ramamananda Nishyanda Kandam. This Rama Nama Amrita bestows happiness to good people and makes the juice of bliss flow in the hearts. Sada Ramamananda Nishyanda Kandam. Nishyanda Kandam. How beautiful it is. The juice of bliss flows in our hearts. And always there will be happiness which is bestowed upon us. By what? By Rama Nama Amrita. Such a Rama Nama Amrita Hanumanji is always drinking. So what is in Hanumanji? What is there in Hanuman? It is only the happiness of Ramanama, the juice of bliss of Ramanama is there in Hanuman. That is why I always adore and worship Hanuman. Hanuman is not a Hanuman. It is only Ramanama Amrita. It is only Rama Ananda. It is only total juice of bliss. That is only there in Hanuman. That is why I always adore and worship Hanuman. And if we worship and adore Hanuman, Rama only will bless through Hanuman, because Hanuman is not a Hanuman, but it is only Rama. Rama's bliss, Rama's Ananda, and Rama's Amrita is there in him. So when we think of him, when we remember him, when we worship him, that only will come to us. Because that is only a medium of communicating and transferring Rama, Ananda, Rama, Amrita, and juice of bliss to us. And he is always immersed in the bliss, not once in a while, not once upon a time, not occasionally, always. Pibantam namantam sudantam hasantam. Because he is always drinking that Ramanama, he cannot but here Adi Shankaracharya sees Hanumanji as smiling, and his shining teeth are visible because he is smiling. Why? Because he is always drinking Ramanama. What else he can do now? When he is always drinking Ramanama Amrita, what else he can do? He is immersed in bliss. So smile only will come out of him. To such a Hanuman, he says, I mentally adore such a Hanuman. Antaha Hanumantamantar bhajetam nitantam. I worship that Hanuman in my mind, so that internally all that Ramanama Amrita and then juice of bliss and happiness will enter into me inside. And what else we need now once it enters into us? That is the end of all pursuits. If Ramanama Amrita enters into us, the juice of bliss is there, happiness is there, what else? That is the highest thing that can happen to an individual. And Hanumanji can make this happen. So we adore and worship Hanuman mentally, inside our mind. So this is the way in which Adi Shankaracharya is trying to link up Ramanama Amrita through Hanuman to inside us. He is a messenger, a medium through which that Rama, Ananda can be communicated to us. Prasida Prasida Prachanda Pratapa Prasida Prasida Prachandari Kala Prasida Prasida Prasannanukampin Prasida Prasida Prasannanukampin Prasannanukampin Prasida Prasida Prabho Ramachandra Prasida Prasida Prabho Ramachandra Prabho Ramachandra. See, the one who advocates non-duality of Advaita Tattva, Adi Shankara, he alone is saying, Prabho Ramachandra. He alone says, Prabho Ramachandra. So let us not have thoughts because of too much of our intellectualism that was Rama real? Was Rama there? This is all again our programs inside because of social conditionings, because of family situations, because of our encounters, dry teachings. This is how we get thoughts. It is real, it is true. Prasida Prasida Prachanda Pratapa. Oh Lord Sri Rama, always Prasida 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 means, here Sri Rama, oh Lord Sri Rama, be gracious unto me, be propitious unto me, be kindly disposed towards me. Be gracious unto me, be propitious unto me, be kindly disposed towards me. O Sri Rama, Prasida Prasida Prachanda Pratapa. Prasida Prasida. It also means be purifying, be soothing, be calming, be cheering, be gladdening source of surrender unto me, Sri Rama. How beautiful it is. So many times Prasida, 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 Prasida. Oh Sri Rama, be purifying, be soothing, be calming, be cheering, be gladdening source of surrender unto me. Meaning, when we surrender, we become purified. It will be soothing. We will get calm. It will be calming. We will be cheered up. We will be gladdened. That is that source of surrender. Be that source of surrender unto me, Sri Rama. Prasida Prasida Prachanda Pratapa. O Sri Rama, you are excessively strong and powerful, full of courage, valor, vigor, energy, radiance, splendor, brilliance and glory. All this means Prachanda Pratapa. Prachanda Pratapa. O Rama, of excessive strength, power, courage, valor, vigor, energy, radiance, splendor, brilliance and glory, be gracious unto me. Be gracious unto me. Prasida Prasida Prachandari Kala. O Sri Rama, you are furious, wrathful, terrible, terrific, intolerable, unbearable death of enemies. You are terrible death of enemies, wrathful death of enemies, terrific death of enemies, furious death of enemies. Be kindly disposed towards me, Rama. Prasida 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 Prasannanukampin. Prasannanukampin. O Sri Rama, thou art very compassionate. Thou art pitying, sympathizing with me. Or thou art compassionate, pitying and sympathizing with those who surrender unto you. You are that, Sri Rama. Prasannanukampin. Constantly you are compassionate. You are constantly sympathizing, forgiving, pitying. Whosoever surrenders unto you, you are like that. Be propitious unto me, Sri Rama. So by surrendering, Adi Shankaracharya leads us, teaches us through surrender. We can gain Rama Nama Amruta, immortality, Rama Ananda, the juice of bliss, and we can gain the compassion of Sri Rama. He is always compassionate, he is always forgiving, he is always pitying, he is always sympathizing with us. And he will remove all our enemies because he is terrific death to enemies. All negative enemies which are there, he will be the terrific death of those enemies. And positive, he will be the excessive strength, vigor, courage, radiance, splendor, brilliance. He will give all that positive and divine things to us. He will purify us, soothe us, calm us, cheer us, gladden us. He divinizes us. So we surrender unto Sri Rama. Prasida Prasida Prabho Ramachandra. Prasida Prasida Prabho Ramachandra. We surrender unto Ramachandra. Through surrender, we will achieve and attain higher levels of consciousness. Here it is said as moksha, Ramananda, Ramamrita, Ramatattva. It is all moksha. Through Rama, through Hanuman, through Bhavani, through Panduranga, through Sri Krishna, through Sri Vishnu, Adi Shankaracharya ji leads us into that divine states through the path of surrender. Here he is not talking about anything else other than surrender. Only surrender, only surrender, surrender. So we have seen in these 7 days various ways of handling the feelings, handling the thoughts, surrendering them, the technique of surrender, the mechanism of surrender, the art of surrender. All because Adi Shankaracharya ji says this is how it has to be done. I owe it all to the great masters of realization. But for them, these teachings would not have been possible. But for Sri Adi Shankara, but for Guru Parampara, but for Parameshwara, but for Mahavishnu, Sri Krishna, Bhavani, Sri Rama, this would not have been possible. We offer our countless number of prostrations at their divine feet. May they make us surrender all our negativities, and may they divinize us, and may they take us into their lap, and then may they, through the embrace, divine embrace, may they make us get merged into them. Sharanagati unto all the manifestations of divinity, to the entire Guru Parampara, we offer our prostrations. Again and again we prostrate to Parama Puja Swami Chidatmanandha ji Maharaj, Parama Guru Tapovan ji Maharaj and Adi Shankaracharya ji, because but for their teachings we will not come to know all these things, and also all the great masters who make this possible. So we offer our humble prostrations, devoted prostrations to all of them. May we be on this path of surrender and reach the ultimate state of Rama, Amrita, Ananda Tattva. I also thank the Chinmaya Mission Hyderabad, Chinmaya Seva Trust, and all the other people who directly, indirectly helped us to organize this. Acharyas, Sevaks. But for them, this would not have been possible. I invoke the divine blessings upon all of them, all of you. But for you, these satsangs would not have happened. Taking time out in these days of hectic schedules for 7 days, all evenings, not an easy thing. So may you be showered by choicest blessings of all the manifestations of divinity and the Guru Parampara. So I once again thank all the organizers, all the sevaks, all the attendants, all the participants for making this happen. Now we will chant the concluding prayers. Yada varna yat karna mulenta kale Shivo Rama Rameti Rameti Kashyam Tadekam Param Taraka Brahma Rupam Bhajeham 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 Namas Satchidananda Rupaya Tasmai Namo Deva Devaya Ramaya Tubhyam Namo Janaki Jiviteshaya Tubhyam नमः पुण्डरीकायत अक्षाय तुभ्यं सदा राम रामेति नामामृतं ते सदा राममानन्द निष्यन्दकन्दं पिबन्तं नमन्तं सुदन्तं हसन्तं हनुमन्तमन्तर् भजेतं नितान्तं प्रसीद प्रसीद प्रचण्ड प्रताप प्रसीद प्रसीद प्रचण्डारिकाल प्रसीद प्रसीद प्रसन्नानुकम्पिन् प्रसीद प्रसीद प्रभो रामचन्द्र प्रभो रामचन्द्र प्रभो रामचन्द्र सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतङ्गमय पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः श्रीपरमात्मने नमः श्रीपरब्रह्मणे नमः हरिः ॐ तत्सत्।